The final drive is proving a bit difficult to get into place actually, with the subframe on the ground here, and I'm beginning to wonder if this is not the best way to do this, because I've got to do this on my own and with the final drive in. And I mean, I removed it with the final drive and the drive shafts, but that's lowering it down and dragging it out. Putting it back in is probably another matter altogether. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolt up all the suspension, but I'm going to leave the final drive out, and I'm going to leave the drive shafts out because I don't want to damage them. And what I'll do is I'll get the subframe back into the car, and then I'll fit the drive shafts, and then I'll fit the final drive. You might have been more observant of you when I said I'd finished everything earlier. You might have noticed that the toe arm bolt, eccentric bolt, was not in place on this side, and the reason was because what I've discovered was that this piece of metal here, somebody had obviously, I reckon what they'd done is they'd tightened up the toe arm adjuster, but the washer or the bolt head was actually on this piece of metal, and so it had flattened it down. So I had to lever it back out, and of course that caused damage to the paint, which I then redid last night, just touched it up, so that I'm just trying to avoid it rusting. That's the main thing. So now it's ready to have that put in. So what I'll do now is I'll get the final drive out, and I'll start putting the new bolts in, and I'll need to torque them up. So I need to go and get the correct torque settings for all of the bolts. The only slight concern I've got, and it is around getting the drive shafts in. I don't want to have to remove the hubs to get the drive shafts in, so I think I better check the manual to see how you do it. What I do know is you can take the final drive out and put it back in with the drive shafts in place. I've just read that in the Haynes manual, so I know that's possible. I thought I'd do a quick check of the drive shaft to make sure it does go in. So here's the new drive shaft. And if I just carefully thread that through here, yeah, that goes in fine. So I think I can put that in once the subframe is up under the car. So I'm going to go with that, and so I'm going to tighten all of the suspension bolts on the basis that I don't think I've got to take off the hub carriers, because if you can get the diff in and out with the drive shafts fitted, so the manual says, and that certainly fits in there okay, so I believe I'm good to go. One concern I had was over something they call indexing, which is where you leave all the suspension bolts loose until you've got weight on the wheels, because if you've got rubber bushes where the metal sleeves inner and outer are bonded onto the bush, then if you tighten them up in the wrong position, they're basically going to be in a sort of flexed position all the time, which isn't good, obviously. But with these, because they've got an inner and an outer sleeve that is not bonded to the polymer bush, I was fairly confident I wouldn't need to worry about the idea of indexing. But if I show you this, I've bolted up this joint here, is now torqued up to full torque. But if I lift the subframe, you'll see the whole thing rotates. There is no way that any of these bushes are going to resist the weight of this suspension. So I believe that if I torque them all up correctly, they'll just naturally settle into the right place.